Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the next episode of our Nightmare playthrough. This is the difficulty that was added along with the Curse of the Vampire DLC expansion. And Halloween has passed, but our enjoyment of this game mode doesn't have to. So let's go ahead and continue through where we left off in last week's episode. Where we had finished off was the encounter with the Electro and Venom boss fight, so we'll want to keep moving along through here. And as we do so, please feel free to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as that subscription helps me out greatly. And don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it or found it entertaining, helpful, and or enjoyable. Any of that really helps me out. Now let's see what, if any, real changes or differences are present with this section of combat. Off the bat, it doesn't appear so, but look, we do have a couple of these cursed entities popping up out of the background. It looks like it is the electrical aspect curse, but we'll make quick work of them and move right along through. Now you'll also probably notice that I've made a minor adjustment to my team composition. That's just as I'm grinding up some of the levels from some of the other teammates that I am trying to, ramp up to doing a video project on. So you should see the start of that project on Wednesday, so make sure that you check back for that as well. Now let's go ahead and make our way through here.
How come they can never make getting out of prison easy?
And
Right.
I'm trying to remember what the pattern was. It's been a minute since I ran this in that speed run etiquette. I think it's this one, this one, this one, and then this one here. Gets us through to the end, but there's also, there we are. So up here there's another hidden box that you can grab, so you'll want to make sure that you snag that if you haven't done so already. And then we can just continue through this laser grid here, or this prison cell. Looks like we've got an opponent that slows our team movement speed, so we'll have to deal with him. I mean, we could move past him, but we're not trying to blitz through or speedrun this at all, so I'm not too concerned with it. And just like that, we've got those teammates taken down, so we can move into the next section, which is right before the Mysterio boss fight, which is really the Miles Morales, Miss Marvel, and Spider-Gwen showcase. Interesting to see here that these characters are changed out with a couple of interesting abilities. We have both... Nope, they all have their own individual aura here. And it's interesting, or fitting, I guess I should say, that Miles Morales is outfitted with the Electra. Is with the healing aura, and Spider-Gwen is with the gravity aura there. Now, I don't know what sequence of healing Miss Marvel really has available to her within her kit. I do know that that's built into her character model within the Avengers game for PlayStation 4, which I'm doing a playthrough on Mondays or Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you haven't been catching that, make sure that you do that as well. And with Spider-Gwen having the gravity one, I think that that's just kind of a generic ability that they tacked on because that wasn't being used by a previous opponent. Now, given that each of these opponents did have a curse attribute active on them, I'm expecting Mysterio to have something unique to him as well. I'm guessing it'll probably be poison, but we'll have to see what it is. And yes, it is indeed a poison aura, which hopefully we don't really have to deal with him due to detonating our extreme attacks here. Thanos Infinite will really help us make sure that we layer in a solid amount of damage, as he does pause that timer. And that was a very fast boss fight, so not a whole lot remaining here to really sift through, if we're being honest. Got a couple of cutscenes we can skip through before progressing into the next section here, which should take us out to the courtyard. And it does. And not too surprised to see the burning aura active here. I'm a little bit intrigued as to why it's not around one of the inmates that has the fire abilities, but it does make sense that he spawned in the same general vicinity as those guys. We've got an electrical aura coming in. Looks like there's a poison aura over here from one of the newcomers, two of the newcomers actually. And let's see if we can take one of these guys out. We've got the ice aura over here. And there's only a couple of auras that we haven't seen, at least of the auras we've been introduced to. There are a couple of auras that you don't necessarily see early on, but I'm certain that we will run into those at some point. Looks like we have a cursed team or opponent as well. He's been taken out though, so that will allow us to lay into this final opponent and take him out. And then I think we're on our way up to the Dr. Octopus fight. Yep, here's the lift that we take here. So let's see what quirks we have active with this fight. And something that's interesting to note about this elevator ride is it doesn't matter where you go, what you do as a part of this, you will always kind of be teleported back. And I think that there's either a bug or an interesting dialogue item here, because I have the Gwenum outfit equipped to Spider-Gwen, and you do notice that she shows up with that alternate and even speaks in that Gwenum type voice as well whenever she has dialogue, which is kind of interesting to see there. Right, Dr. Octopus has the movement slowing aura active, so that can prove to be a little bit of a challenge if you're not ready for it. Let's go ahead and get a synergy attack in here to extend that stun duration timer. And one more dash over this way ought to get a really nice chunk of his health taken down. We'll go ahead and detonate another one of those abilities, synergy attacks, to take him on, and that'll take us into the second phase, which I don't expect to be that different. Since he already had the slowing aura, I'm in high anticipation that he's going to retain that curse attribute into the second phase of the fight, but I could be wrong. I haven't played along into this portion of the quest at all so far. So let's see what he has, or if he has anything active. And yes, he does indeed have that slowing aura active here. And that will bring him to his knees. And we should be able to just one-shot him right here. And yeah, he went down very easy with all of those extreme attacks. So that just leaves us the Green Goblin fight, which is bound to be quite the interesting fight dynamic, because it'll be interesting to see whatever curse or whatever gimmick they decide to play in to his fight. And I'm really hoping that it's not one of these items that we haven't seen as of yet, as that would just be kind of mean. Okay, it is gravity, which is actually going to make this fight pretty annoying, because we do need to try to pick up the pumpkin bombs that he's scattering across the arena here. And that is not exactly made easy by the fact of being constantly pulled away from them. So let's get another one of these thrown in at him. That must have exploded right before it was able to detonate on him. And we've now gotten him into the second phase of the fight, which is pretty good. Now, the key for this fight against Green Goblin is you do want to look at your arrow indicator that's around the character model, and kind of make sure that you're aiming it directly at Green Goblin. I was going to initially throw at him there, but decided the better of it. And he did just... He didn't fully stun there, which is kind of interesting, and I don't know why that was the case. Looks like we caught him with the tail end of that. And I got greedy. And I got greedy again. But this one... Why did you turn that way all of a sudden? Alright. This ought to be the rest of it. To finish him out, if we can play our cards correctly. Honestly, a dash attack, anything else was going to get Green Goblin down at this stage. So let's move along into the next section of this fight. And we have the Time Stone successfully back in our possession because that gimmick has not played out of this game mode. So let's talk to Nick Fury and transition over to Shadowland. Alright, we've now moved over to Shadowland. This is where we get introduced to Jessica Jones. She's unfortunately just an NPC that you interact with during this section of this quest. It would have been really cool to have seen her as a playable character, but perhaps in some other game at some other time. Maybe if there ends up being an Ultimate Alliance 4, we'll see her as a playable character at that point. Wouldn't complain at that at all. She is a really cool character, and I quite enjoyed the TV show. Looks like we have two curses here. There's the opponent that will detonate upon being defeated, and the poison opponent here as well. So let's get away from that blast, and then make our way down here. And I did just miss that timing, though I do typically do a little bit better at keeping this section of that grid a little more discreet. But at the same time, it is good to know that you're not, as I trigger a second one, that first section didn't appear to have any of the cursed elements. This one has two in the form of the gravity and the movement slowing opponents, which is not the funnest combination to have to deal with. And then I don't plan on tripping this again, so let's just kind of keep up with it. Now we will take the detour down to the back here for the synergy area, as we are trying to pick up the different mini boss characters we have here. It looks like we needed a different synergy, and there we are. That unlocked the gate and got us this box. Now we just gotta wait for this to finish up, and we just missed the timing on that one. I possibly could have made it if I would have made some gutsy jump teleports, but we can just kind of sit here and wait for it to come back around. Let me know what your favorite section of this game is. I mean, just while we're kind of waiting here, I'd love to hear your input as to your favorite area of the game. I don't know if I could pick one specifically. I have a couple that I know are my least favorites. Hell, specifically, I don't really care for a lot of the mechanics that are in there. But let me know what areas you really like or what areas you don't really care for, as I'm always interested to hear some input from that as well. Now let's make our way into this section, see if we have any opponents. Ooh, looks like these guys don't have any of these abilities here. No curse attributes. Now there is a chest over here that we're going to want to grab. And didn't look like we got anything super helpful or important from there. But you're at least now aware that that's where it is if you were not aware before. Looks like we have a self-heal cursed opponent as well as a self-destruct cursed opponent. So let's get away from that blast. And we didn't quite happen to get away from it beforehand, but that's okay by me. Let's do this last section here with Iron Fist. And yep, we've got a fire and ice opponent set up here. A fire and ice duo of cursed opponents. But they're now down. It looks like there was a cursed opponent there. And now we're seeing one of my least favorite curses. And this is the recoil curse, where upon dealing damage to this enemy, you will receive a certain amount of percentage of the damage you deal to them back. Now, the last 4 opponents we have here, we have fire, ice, electricity, and gravity, which is not the funnest combination when they're all rolled together, especially where the fire and ice can kind of stagger out your teammates and keep them from bundling up on their attacks, especially if they're in that brawler category where they rely on being up close and personal, such as, well, Black Widow. But that's going to be where we hold things off for today's episode. I hope that you're enjoying the series. Again, if you are, please feel free to leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, as that subscription is free and easy, and I bring videos to you every single day. But thanks again for watching, and I hope that you have a fantastic rest of your day.